There is a growing narrative, repeated across media, think tanks, and digital platforms, that India is losing the air power race to China. It is a narrative built on numbers, on fleet sizes, on the visible expansion of China's air force, and on the perceived stagnation of India's modernization. But in strategy, numbers rarely tell the full story. In fact, they often mislead. To understand whether India is truly losing this race, we must first understand what the race actually is.
Before we move forward, please like, subscribe, and share Strategic Vanguard, and be up to date with the latest news and happenings from the world of defense and strategic affairs. Tune into our video channels in Rumble and YouTube. And if you want to hear the audio version, please tune into Strategic Vanguard Deep Dive in Spotify.
Air power is not a competition of who owns more aircraft. It is a question of who can generate decisive air superiority in a specific theater, at a specific time, for a specific objective. And when viewed through that lens, the entire debate begins to shift. China today commands the world's third-largest air force, the People's Liberation Army Air Force, with over 2,000 combat aircraft. It has rapidly inducted fifth-generation platforms like the Chengdu J-20, expanded its bomber fleet, and developed an integrated air defense network that stretches across its eastern and western theaters. On paper, this appears overwhelming. India, on the other hand, operates a smaller force. The Indian Air Force fields around 30 to 32 fighter squadrons, below its sanctioned strength of 42. This numerical gap is often highlighted as evidence of strategic decline. But such a comparison ignores a fundamental principle. Air power is theater-specific, not global. China's air power is distributed across multiple fronts. Its primary focus remains the Western Pacific, Taiwan, the South China Sea, and the East China Sea. The bulk of its most advanced assets are oriented toward countering the United States and its allies in that region. The Tibetan Plateau, where China faces India, is a secondary theater. And this distinction matters more than numbers ever will. Operating from the Tibetan Plateau presents China with significant limitations. High-altitude airfields reduce payload capacity. Aircraft cannot take off with full fuel and weapons, limiting both range and combat effectiveness. Infrastructure constraints further complicate sustained operations. In contrast, India operates from lower-altitude bases with full payload capabilities, allowing greater operational flexibility. This is where geography becomes strategy. India does not need to match China aircraft for aircraft. It needs to dominate the specific battle space of the Himalayas and the Indian Ocean region. And in that context, the balance is far more nuanced than it appears. Let us consider aircraft quality. India's induction of the Dassault Rafale represents a significant leap in capability. Equipped with advanced avionics, superior electronic warfare systems, and long-range Meteor missiles, the Rafale provides India with a qualitative edge in beyond-visual range combat. It is not just an aircraft, it is a force multiplier. China's Chengdu J-20 is often portrayed as a game-changer, and it is, to an extent. But questions remain about its engine performance, stealth characteristics, and combat readiness. More importantly, stealth alone does not guarantee dominance. Air combat is a system of systems engagement involving sensors, networks, and doctrine. India's strength lies in integration. The Indian Air Force has developed a doctrine that emphasizes network-centric warfare, integrating airborne early warning systems, ground-based radars, and fighter aircraft into a cohesive operational framework. This allows for better situational awareness and coordinated engagements. Another critical factor is pilot training and experience. The Indian Air Force has a long history of combat operations and high-intensity exercises. Its pilots regularly train in complex environments, often simulating multi-front scenarios. Experience cannot be quantified easily, but it plays a decisive role in actual conflict. China, despite its rapid modernization, lacks comparable combat experience in recent decades. Its training standards have improved significantly, but real-world operational exposure remains limited. In a high-stakes conflict, this gap could prove consequential. The narrative of India losing also overlooks the importance of defense ecosystems. China's advantage lies in its industrial capacity. It can produce aircraft at scale, iterate rapidly, and sustain long-term modernization. India, in contrast, has struggled with delays and dependencies. However, this is changing. The development of the HAL AMCA signals India's intent to enter the fifth-generation domain on its own terms. Combined with programs like Tejas Mk2 and advancements in indigenous radar and missile systems, India is gradually building a more self-reliant defense ecosystem. This transition will take time. But strategy is not about immediate parity. It is about long-term positioning. India's approach appears to be focused on selective superiority rather than comprehensive equivalence. Another dimension often ignored is jointness. Air power does not operate in isolation. It is part of a broader military strategy involving land and naval forces. India's ability to integrate its air force with its navy in the Indian Ocean region provides a strategic advantage that China cannot easily replicate in the same theater. The Indian Ocean itself is a critical factor. While this discussion focuses on air power, the extension of air capabilities into maritime operations creates a multidimensional battle space. India's geographic position allows it to project power across key sea lanes, complicating China's strategic calculus. So, is India losing the air power race? If the race is defined purely by numbers, perhaps it appears so. But if the race is defined by the ability to achieve strategic objectives within a specific theater, the answer is far less clear. India's challenge is real. Squadron shortages, delays in procurement, and the pace of modernization are genuine concerns. These issues cannot be ignored or downplayed, but they do not automatically translate into strategic inferiority. What India faces is not a race it must win outright, but a competition it must shape intelligently. It must leverage geography, enhance integration, accelerate indigenous development, and maintain qualitative superiority where it matters most. China's advantage is scale, India's advantage is positioning, and in strategy, positioning often outweighs scale. The future of this competition will not be decided by who has more aircraft on paper, but by who can bring the right capabilities to bear at the decisive moment. It will depend on doctrine, readiness, and the ability to adapt under pressure. India is not losing, but it cannot afford complacency. The real question is not whether India is behind, but whether it can convert its strategic advantages into operational dominance when it matters most. That is where this contest will be decided.
Thank you for joining us on this Strategic Vanguard deep dive. If you found value in this analysis, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. We bring you fresh deep dives every Wednesday and Saturday here on YouTube and Rumble, and you can also catch the audio versions on Spotify and Amazon Music. Just search for Strategic Vanguard Deep Dive. For more insights, articles, and discussions, subscribe to our blog at strategicvanguard.com. Your support helps us grow and bring you more in-depth analysis on defense, geopolitics, and strategy. Until next time, stay informed, stay strategic.